Hey, how's everybody doing today? Um, Kind of a tribute to Willie Mays. I'm not going to show my entire Willie Mays collection or anything, but I'm going to talk about the greatest living player. And before his passing, it was common belief that Willie Mays was the greatest living player. He was, at least to me, in my lifetime, from players that I've watched growing up and through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. He took over the title when Joe DiMaggio used to be introduced at events. They used to start off with the greatest living player, Joe DiMaggio. And after Joe passed, the title was kind of passed over to Willie Mays. Great five tool player, easily top five all time in my book. Remember watching him on Game of the Week, colliding with Bobby Bonds, Bobby, not Barry, at center field chain link fence in Candlestick Park. And Willie came down with the ball. He laid on the ground for a while, but he made the catch. And it was a big impression to a young kid watching the Game of the Week. And I can't remember who the announcers were, if it was Tony Kubek or Sandy Koufax or somebody like that. Kurt Gowdy, maybe, who knows? Um, but it was always fun to watch Willie. He had a big history in Minnesota. He started as he played like 30 some odd games with the Minneapolis Millers. He batted over 400, so he didn't last very long um, in Minnesota. And he also lost a couple of years to the military. And in the last 10 years of his prime, he played Candlestick Park, which probably had the worst wind of any park anywhere. And a local reporter had talked to a clubhouse attendant at Candlestick who was there also when Joe DiMaggio was there. And he said that that wind probably robbed Willie Mays of hundreds of home runs. I'm not sure about hundreds, but it robbed him of a lot of home runs, I'm sure. I've been to games in San Francisco, not Candlestick, and I've been to them in Oakland, and it can get Minnesota chilly there too, and at some of the evening games. Um, but all told, there's nothing like watching Willie Mays. He came back to Minnesota in '65, hit a home run in the All Star game to start things off. Typical Willie, and just kind of show my favorite Willie card again. The 1967 Topps Test Disc. Willie Mays for mayor. And like I've said before, there's only a handful of those out in existence. So after the passing of Willie, I'm sitting there. I wonder who the greatest living player is. I hesitate to give it to any of the steroid guys because with my bad knees, I mean, I've had cortisone shots, but the last doctor I went to see, they suggested taking a steroid regimen. And I could barely walk. I had to go help my friend at the Dallas card show, and I was thinking of canceling it. And so I took this steroid regimen, after the second dose. I was up and walking. My knee felt like I was 20 years old. And it still hasn't really bothered me. I went on a 6 mile bike ride yesterday, a 2.5 mile walk the day before. So there's something to those steroids. It's not just the muscle building and power, it's healing what's hurting you, especially, athletic joints and knees. Not that I'm a great athlete or anything, but it basically cured me for that time. And I know it's going to come back again, but steroids are miracle drugs. And that's just my 2 cents. You're not going to be sitting out a week with a bad knee with steroids around, that's for sure. unless your knee is really bad. And so, there's some great players out there. There's Sandy Koufax, one of the best pitchers of all time. I'm, you know, Barry Bonds before he took the steroids, but he didn't have the full career like some other players. There's Mike Schmidt. There's Reggie Jackson. There's a Nolan Ryan. There's a lot of great players out there, but my choice would be for the greatest living player would be Junior Ken Griffey Jr. This card I got in a contest win from John at 3D80's Kid with the Four Collectors channel. But just watching Griffey, I mean, in the '98 home run chase, Griffey was in the running until August. He had 40 some home runs, just like Sosa and McGwire. But for some reason, Sosa and McGwire had the endurance to get him through the year. And Griffey just ended up in the 50s, didn't get past 61, a record that for the American League that Aaron Judge broke in 2022. So, I mean, Mike Trout, he's injury prone. He won't have a full career unless something happens, a miracle drug comes along or something. So I'm going to go with Ken Griffey Jr. as the current greatest living player. Who do you have? So thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great week.